Hola, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including OK KO, Let's Be Heroes, which we'll be getting into today. I'm Alex Bonilla, and today I'm joined by Steve Zec.
Yo!
We'll be discussing the first 14 episodes of the new Cartoon Network series OK KO, Let's Be Heroes, and that does include 4 episodes that have not premiered on television yet, but are currently available on Cartoon Network's app if you want to go look for them. We'll go into our initial reactions to the show, things and characters that have stood out, favorite episodes, and where we think this show could be headed. But first, let's just lay out a little background for the show. This is the child of Ian Jones-Quartey, who is an alum of Adventure Time and Steven Universe. So if you listen to our podcast on those shows, you'll have heard his name before. He presented the pilot for this project way back in 2013, which was coincidentally the same time Steven Universe had its pilot presented and picked up immediately. So he started working with Rebecca Sugar on Steven Universe while this project was quiet for a while until around 2016 when we got a mobile game for the show, and finally was officially greenlit earlier this year and just premiered on August 1st with Cartoon Network presenting what appears to be a month-long bomb of new episodes. I was only recently made aware of the project rather recently when they made the official green light. But Steve, did you have any hype for this going into it?
Not much hype. I heard about it. I just didn't know when it was going to come out. It just came out of nowhere that the first 6 episodes were put up on the app. I saw the episodes. I liked them. Yeah, you feel Steven Universe influence in there for sure. But the show almost reminds me of the most, though, is an anime called My Hero Academia. I don't know if you heard of that.
I've heard of it. I'm not really attuned to the plot, but it does seem very influenced by anime, just like in the faces and like the style of animation. It does feel that way. And I agree with you that it does feel like Steven Universe, particularly like the early parts, where it's just a lot of goofy fun right now. I would also compare it to early Adventure Time, because at least early Steven Universe, it did give you some sense of like plot elements that would be treated later in the future, whereas like early Adventure Time, it really was just all over the place. And I think OK KO leans closer to that side. We haven't really gotten a sense of any overarching plot themes going on, but it's just really fun. It's got lots of good puns, good humor all around, and it's just a light show, I think, so far would be the best way to call it.
Yeah, very light show. I do think if there's an overarching plot with like a villain, I don't think a Boxman is that villain. He's like more like Ice King, and while someone else might be the what's that guy's name in Adventure Time? Forget his name. You know.
Also Star vs. the Forces of Evil. He seems like an early Ludo. He's supposed to be the villain, but he's very goofy, and you don't really take him that seriously. But but he serves as the conflict, so it works for now. But if we get deeper into the show and it's still with him, then you're going to start seeing problems unless you introduce a bigger villain like Adventure Time and Star vs. the Forces of Evil did, right?
Yeah, I was floored that he's voiced by the great Jim Cummings, man. That was a tremendous get for them to get, because he's a legend in voice acting.
Definitely, and I think the voice acting, like the background of this is very impressive. The voice acting is pretty good all around. I'd say the music is probably pretty good. It's very jaunty, like it goes perfectly with the action scenes that they use. And the animation, I think, works because even though off-model is often a complaint in other shows, here I think it works just because of how off-the-wall this entire show is. So I think like the little details, the show works perfectly. In the big picture, we have some stuff to work on, but it definitely has those small details down pat, I think.
Yeah.
But now let's go maybe more specifically into the content of the show, like the characters, for example. Who would you say is like a standout or one that you enjoy the most when they come on screen?
Oh, I guess so many. Well, at first I would say Boxman himself early on, but now though my favorite is Dendy. I just love Dendy, and she's my new fave. She's like if Pearl and Peridot had a child. She's like, yeah.
Exactly. I chose her too. Just her appearances are like the funniest, I think, and she works with KO so perfectly. And even she's only had one standalone episode so far, and one where she appeared as a side character, but they were both electric to me. So
Yeah.
I think it's surprising that for as the side character is the one that stands out the most to us so far. What would you say about the main trio of KO, Enid, and Rad? What impression do you get of how they work with each other, or how they serve as actual main characters?
Oh, my impression though I get is the relationship KO has with these two is pretty much he looks up to them like his like older siblings. I get that vibe. I got especially like episodes like when Rad is trying to impress KO, like like a big brother trying to show off to his little bro, and and Eden, she's like the smart like oldest sister that kind of knows what's best for everyone, and she's also kind of a slacker, which I like.
Yeah, Enid really speaks to me too. Just laid back, doesn't really care about anything. Very similar to like say Lapis or early Marceline maybe.
Yeah, if I could just go back to Denji for a second,
Yeah, sure.
another comparison I want to make to her though, she's a more likable, in my opinion, Lisa Lau too.
From the Loud House.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but anyway, back to the trio.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a good dynamic. It's not quite Finn and Jake, nor Steven in the Crystal Gems. It's its own thing.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a very retail dynamic, which you see a lot in like live action sitcoms, but I don't think it's really been treated in animation lately. Just like having three guys hang around a grocery store, and like as someone who used to work in retail, I can appreciate that dynamic. Enid and KO are really fun to me. Rad, I haven't quite warmed up to yet. It just feels like too stereotypical bro who has a soft side. Like it feels like that character has appeared way too often lately. Like it's probably a good subversion, but it feels like it's been used too often. So Rad I haven't gotten into, but Enid and KO episodes that are just them I particularly enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Any other characters you want to talk about?
Well, we also have the side villains. So we've already talked a little about Lord Botsman, but we also have his children.
Wait, should we also talk about Gar and Carol?
Yeah, we can talk about them. I like Carol a lot personally.
Yeah, she reminds me of a little bit of Barb from Steven Universe.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's intentional because he's saying like people working on the two shows.
No, and definitely forgive us if we're making too many Steven Universe comparisons, but a lot of these characters are similar. Because also you'll have the inevitable KO looks like Ruby comparisons.
Yeah.
But yeah, even from like the first part where you just see Carol and Mr. Gar interacting, Mr. Gar freezes up. Like it does make you a little interested in their backstory, and they've been hinting at that, although they haven't gone full in yet. But that's at least a little plot thread that we can look forward to.
I wasn't sure at first though what Gar's deal with Carol was. I wasn't sure if he was afraid of her or he had like a crush on her. It wasn't clear like the first appearance, but later episodes just kind of clear what's going on there.
Yeah, at least in the past, you can figure something was going on between them.
Yeah.
And before we move into the actual episodes, just one thing while we're sticking on characters. One notable thing that people have noticed is KO's voice, because like half of the episodes he's voiced by Courtney Taylor and half voiced by Stephanie Nadolny. Like personally, I haven't seen that very often in Western animation. I don't know if that's common in animes that they switch voice actors.
Not really, but
no. What do you think about that? Like, can you tell the difference?
I don't know. Actually, no. It's common in anime dubs, but not in the original Japanese. But I don't know why they're doing that though. Like who's like the first one? Who's like voice? Who's going to be the permanent KO when we get to like all the episodes later on? Are you gonna keep doing this, rotating?
Yeah, I don't know, but like at least to me, like I look through the episodes and I prefer the ones where voiced by Courtney Taylor. I believe Steph Nadolny is the one with more voice acting experience, as far as I know. So just yeah, I can't really figure out the strategy here, but it was definitely jarring when you're watching them back to back. You can notice the differences a lot more than maybe if you just watch one episode, leave, and watch the next episode of next week. It might work like that, but in this bomb format that they're using, it's a lot more noticeable.
Oh, speaking of okay, do you want to talk about the side villains or not? Sorry.
Well, are there any interesting ones to you?
Well, I like well, Shannon's the one I kind of like the most. I mean, she's voiced by one of my favorite voice actresses in the world, Kari Walgreen, man. And and also like she's Kari Walgreen voices Shannon, and of course, Dendy's voiced by Melissa Fawn, two alums of one of my favorite animes of all time, Foolie Cooley. All we need now is Stephanie Sheh to be in an episode, and we got like all the girls from Foolie Cooley in this show.
Yes, the anime roots are strong with this one.
Yeah, and I'm sure like Shannon is one of Dylan's favorite characters. I'm sure she is that type of Dylan type of character he would love. But one thing you do know about them though, they're robots. They're not human, so you can like kill them off one episode and then come back the next episode with like the whole memories reset. Like for example, that last one of the ones that came on the app, that episode by the end, Shannon develops like a sort of like a fear of coffee. But if we see her again in a future episode, we could assume maybe it's a different Shannon, so she won't have those memories of being afraid of coffee.
Yeah, you have to wonder how they're gonna work. Like, if the robots can keep getting rebuilt, then there's no real tension there. Obviously, if this is going to be an episodic show, that doesn't really matter. But if you want us to care about the villains, then it's not the best that they can just come back totally renewed.
I wonder though. It's sort of like is they doing this intentionally, like a parody of something? Are they going for some big punchline joke down the line?
Well, like right now, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? And maybe that's the aim. That is just something that you can sit down at whatever time you want, and you get to laugh for 11 minutes, and then the next episode you watch, it doesn't matter what order you watch it in, and you get the same results. So maybe that's the aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no real like you can watch in any order. There's no real change except for Denny's introduction. That's the only real like change as far as I see.
Right. Although at the same time, like KO isn't really affected by like an episode before Dendy's introduction is about the same as OK's personality after Dendy. So
yeah, but you can't watch it like the later episode when she's in it before the episode when she's introduced. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So and we'll talk a little bit about the future of the show later on. But now let's move on to like our favorite episodes. Obviously there are 14, so we won't go through each one of them, but we can do 2 or 3. Maybe you can say one and then I say one, and we chime in if we end up sharing an episode. So
okay.
So first, what episode stood out to you? Do you think?
Okay, well, I'm gonna start with you, Miss. Let me see. My first episode really stood up to me is We Messed Up. And that's when we really got learned a little more about Mr. Gar. I thought that was interesting. We see what kind of like a relationship him and Carol had in the past. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, the random like noirish flashback at the end was a little out of place, but I found it pretty funny. Also, there's like a couple of gags in distracting Mr. Gar. Like one that I remember is like the cheapskate who's reading magazines in the store. I'm totally that guy, guilty as charged. But yeah, so that one was pretty good. I went with one a bit earlier. Let's Be Friends. So that's the second episode, and that's actually like I think that's Lord Botsman's best episode so far. Like it's pretty silly, like I hate friendship and all. But also when he captures KO, the whole manipulation of like, that you see they're coming because they hate that you've distracted them from your work and they don't want to be your friends and all that. Like I think that actually that was a good use of Botsman. Like not he's not intimidating in his just, actions, but at least in his words, he can be a good villain. And there is where Jim Cummings comes into effect. His voice gives it a lot more gravitas. And,
I remember. Yeah, I remember how floored I was when I heard that voice. I'm like, oh my god, holy crap, Jim Cummings! I mean, oh my god, did not expect that.
Yeah, it does come like you. That's a voice that you know because you've heard in so many other shows, and it helps a lot when you're trying to introduce a villain that has almost no background.
Mm-hmm.
So what other episode comes out to you?
Okay, let's see what other ones. How about I'll save the other one for last. Your level 100.
Mm-hmm.
That was I think that's sort of a take on power levels like in Dragon Ball Z. If I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but
I'm aware of the concept of power levels.
yeah,
and it's interesting. That seems to be like the introduction, like mention it offhandedly in other episodes. But do you think that that's going to end up being something important in this show, or just something that they refer to whenever they need it?
It could be important. I mean, the wiki just give us the power levels of these characters, so I don't know. I just thought it was just funny. I just thought it was fun for 11 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I don't overthink it, right? Like you said, there's no like overacting plot so far. It just seems like this could all be like episodic series so far. So that's one thing I like about episodic shows. You can just enjoy them. You don't have to overthink it.
Right.
You don't have to do homework.
I do like just the idea of like the new robot is just a Mega Daryl, just Daryl but bigger. Like simple but effective. Yeah, my second episode, presenting Joe Cuppa, which is one of the app-only episodes. I'm a sucker for puns, and that was just a pun-filled episode. And then at the end, like the whole thing is word comedy is stupid, and then at the end you put Rad in a whole Looney Tunes sequence of falling in a garbage can down a waterfall, and Enid ending with "Now that's comedy," like Animaniacs. That was like Slappy Squirrel's catchphrase. Yeah. So I like that entire episode because that's like the epitome of what this show might be aiming for, just like pure humor across the board, nothing really that serious, and like that one really landed with me.
Well, yeah, Joe Cuppa, he reminds me a little. He's like a character you might see in Adventure Time, but you know, he reminds me though. Kind of reminds me a little bit more of Krusty the Clown.
Yeah, just washed up, just hanging around local comedy mic stores.
Yeah.
And what would be a final one that you want to highlight here?
Well, no surprise. I am Dendy.
Same. I was saving that for last too.
Yeah, I just love Dendy, man. I don't know how quickly she just came on my favorites list. I don't know. And not only because I know her voice actress and I'm a big fan of hers, voice actress who again also like the voice of Lisa Loud also is a Digimon alumnus too, but that's another story. But yeah, but I kind of liked her. I saw her in one of the minisodes, so I'm already familiar with her. But what I like, though, it's just interesting because she seemed like first like someone who you think could be like might be like an alien who's trying to learn about human culture. That's what. Yeah, I don't know.
And that's definitely where the Peridot comparisons come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Peridot. Yeah, but also I'm thinking like a lot of like anime movies I've seen like with these robot people. That's what you remind me of, and you know, I just I'm waiting for the day though. Dendy actually gets to meet like one of Boxman's robots. I want her to have an interaction with one of them. With a Daryl or Shannon or what's the new guy's name? Raymond?
Yeah, I think Raymond or Raymundo or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, have you seen any of the Minnesotas that had this?
I haven't gotten around to them.
Oh, yes. They had this funny little music video thing with Team Boxman. It's really hilarious. But
no, and that's the cool thing about the show, too. It does have a lot of, like, peripheral media. It's got the video game. It's got these minisodes. So, like, it does seem like they're going all out with this show on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. And Dendy, though, she is precious. She must be protected.
Yeah, I also just love her interaction with KO. I'm really glad that like they make KO understand Dendy despite her language. Like it's often a trope where like they use big words and the other person's like what, But like Chaos like struggles, but like he ends up getting the gist. So I do like that little detail. Also, just them playing tag is just so cute.
And what about the part she did that enemy pose, that enemy little? That is when she won me over completely.
Yeah, just Dendi all around great character. Want to see more of her.
Yeah, she's only been in 2 episodes so far.
I know.
I need more Dendi.
Final important question: do you ship it?
KO and Dendi?
Yeah.
Well, maybe in the future, but not at this time. They're too young right now. I'm just
okay. Too early.
And
I got you.
I'm not even sure of their age difference though. Dendi seems to be me a couple younger than KO. Seems
maybe,
to me.
Although they did say that they were in school together.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
But he might have skipped a few grades because he seems smart enough to do that.
True. Also a possibility.
Well, either way though, I just want them to be like best friends at the very least, and maybe something happens in the future. So be it. KO doesn't seem like interested in girls or really any in romance at all. Period. For now, but you never know. If a girl takes interest in KO, might we see a jealous side of Dendi? I'm wondering.
Definitely.
I know Melissa Funk could pull that off. If you're seeing Fully Cooley, she could definitely pull that off.
But yeah, the age thing is probably a barrier here. But yeah. So talking about the future, let's just wrap up here. What do you hope the show does in the future? Do you think that the show can last just this way episodically, just basic humor, or do you think that an overarching plot would help you to stick around?
Well, overarching plot is good, but what I can see maybe is what a show like My Little Pony: Friendship and Magic does, which is they have overarching plots only twice a season, or maybe in the beginning of the season, the end of the season, in the middle is all episodic slice of life. That's probably what I would like to see here. I don't like the show to become taken over by plot. I kind of want it to be mostly normally an episodic show, but with a big overarching plot once in a while at the season, every season finale or season premieres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. At least for me, all the shows that I like, animated wise, do have some form of plot. So, this is something that I'll probably keep along because the humor is pretty good. But I am a little worried that I might start falling off if it doesn't introduce something that keeps me hooked in. But right now, it's very enjoyable, and I can last a while. If we lasted through a lot of the early Steven Universe, a lot of early Adventure Time, that some shows take a long time to get their footing before they can introduce that kind of stuff. So I'm willing to wait, and I hope that the show stays at least at this level of humor if it's going to stay at this direction.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the girls of this show are what's going to get me to stick around for a while. The Dendis, the Shannons, and of course, the Eden. Did I say Eden?
Enid, I think it is.
Yeah, Eden, yeah. And maybe even Carol. I liked her too. And in Chaos, he's enough of a character I like. He's not complete Finn or Steven clone. He's different enough that I guess I could stick with it for a bit. But I do want a plot. I do want a plot at the end of the season. I would like to see maybe some development with Boxman, because I just got a feeling, man, he's a little bit of an Ebenezer Scrooge vibe to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are definitely things you could do with Botsman to make him a little more interesting. Maybe a backstory episode to see how he got this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll both keep following the show then, and here on Overly Animated, you can keep an eye out for regular recaps of the show on the podcast, as we'll see how this show continues to develop. You can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. We want to give a huge thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Katrin, aka Patron Katrin. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Andy, and yours truly. You can find Steve on our ongoing Little Witch Academia podcast. Hopefully you're still going on with that.
Oh yeah, thanks for the plug.
And also on overlyanimated.com, you're a contributor to our general anime division. You do regular recaps, right?
Yeah, I do. Well, not regularly.
Season recaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do like articles much as you do. I just do them when I can. Yeah.
And you can find me on Assorted Podcast as well as Steve mentioned, my weekly Last Week in Animation roundup on overlyanimated.com. So thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. Adios!
Bye bye.